Monday, June 5th, 2017 meeting of the Falmouth Zoning Board of Appeals. I'll start by asking everyone to silence your cell phones if you haven't done so already. I know seating is limited in here. There are a few empty seats if anybody would like to kind of find seating. If not, you'll have to stand, obviously. I'll start by introducing the board from your left to right. Jerry Thomas is here. He's kind of in the crowd at the moment due to space limitations. He is an associate member of the board. Robert Dugan is next in line. He's also an associate member of the board. Then Ken Foreman, he's the vice chairman of the board. TJ Hurry is the clerk of the board. I'm Kimberly Beelan, I'm the chair of the board. Ed Van Kuren is a regular voting member, as is Paul Murphy. Also sitting at the table right now is Paul Haverty, who's the consultant on the Liberty Green application, and Glenn Fontecchio is here as well. He is our architectural consultant. So tonight on the agenda we have 3 continuations. We'll start, so we don't need to read anything into the record, but if applicable, if there's been any new correspondence, TJ will provide an overview of that. If we open up for public comments tonight, I would just ask that individuals recognized by myself be asked just to stand up where you're sitting tonight so we don't have a lectern in the room. Identify yourselves and state if you're in support, in opposition, or if you have any questions. We'll try to get those answered. Please be brief. Obviously, we have a room full of people. Duplicative testimony really isn't helpful to the process if we've heard it. It's usually a quality, not a quantity thing. So we certainly hear everybody's comments. We've received a lot of comments, certainly on the Liberty Green or Falmouth hospitality matter. So just keep that in mind. We do impose a 2-minute rule, so I may have to cut you off mid-statement, and I'll try to be respectful, but we also need to keep it moving. So the first item on the agenda, I think we're going to take something or 2 of them out of order. So.
Madam Chair, I would like to make the motion to take applications 100-16 and 101-16 out of order.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So that was TJ and Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? Okay. And I'm not sitting. I'm recusing from those 2.
Okay.
Pass the gavel to Jen. Thank you.
Oh,
Just in case.
very symbolic.
You may use it.
Okay, so my understanding is that there has been a request for continuation.
He's here to request.
Okay, Mr.
Yes,
Kirk?
Mr. Foreman, yes, on behalf of the 2 applicants, I'd like to request these 2 matters be continued to your next hearing, July 6th if possible. There's some factual and procedural issues that we need to get straightened out.
Okay, and you're willing to sign a waiver so we can get an
Certainly.
extension of time?
Certainly.
Okay, great.
Are all members going to be here on July 6th? Because this is one of those that he wants all 5 members.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Paul Murphy? I didn't hear a yes.
I think so.
Well,
Mary Gibbs.
yeah.
Yeah.
I hold him to
Do we
it.
have a calendar? I don't, I know, I think, I don't have my phone with me either. So I just have to see. I doubt it.
It's a Thursday.
Yeah, it's a Thursday.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna be away, because the 4th, yeah, 5th, yeah.
Are there no alternate members that are,
We've had 1 hearing. TJ, could you please check the minutes to see if, who was present that night?
It was Ken, myself, Ed, Paul, and
Those are the sitting members. To check the minutes. Because the minutes will show if Jerry was here.
remember there?
I remember you.
Yeah.
Bob, are you there?
Yeah.
I was,
Pardon me?
Yeah, I will.
because I,
Excuse me.
I don't see the folder.
well, I remember, you were there, right?
That's all right. I want it for a part of the record to get it
Straight.
exactly. You sure bargained my Ed on the table? Right here.
There we go.
Jerry was here. Jerry, will you be here July 6th? After all that?
I don't think so unless I have to. I don't know if Bob can be here.
Bob's already on it. Oh, July 6th is the one that you already canceled on me.
Yeah, but I mean, given this, I might have to, you represent me in my divorce?
Jerry's out that night as
No,
well.
I'll have to change it.
Okay,
No other
so,
extension choice.
so either Paul or you
It's
will.
5 members, yeah.
No.
I
Okay.
mean, I might be, but I doubt it.
Right. But there's an outside chance.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
But I think I took that week off.
All right, so you want to go ahead and make a
Okay,
motion?
so is there, did someone start to make that motion? Motion that to continue to July 6th here in Town Hall?
I'll
Ed?
make the motion to continue.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
passed.
Thank you all very much.
I'll get you
Go back to
the waiver.
Tim.
Thank you.
Musical chairs tonight.
Okay, so the next matter on the agenda is application 11716, Falmouth Hospitality LLC, 556 Main Street. And we have had some correspondence come in, and submissions and things like that from the public. Attorney Erickson?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
If you could stand, just better for them. I don't know if it's easier to go, wherever you're comfortable.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay,
I'll just stand right here.
okay.
Doesn't make a difference to me. For the record, Attorney Kevin Erickson on behalf of Falmouth Hospitality LLC. Here on a continued public hearing for the comprehensive permit application of 556 Main Street in Lantern Lane. I'd like to take this opportunity for what will be the last public hearing to just kind of provide some closing commentary to the board. As I stated at the last hearing, and I think I detailed at some length, we've gone through a process to be at this point now, and this board certainly has as well, but that process actually started with the site approval process. We received site approval from Mass Housing, as this board's aware, back in April of 2016. Prior to issuance of that site approval, Mass Housing did review a significant amount of information from the applicant, much of which has remained consistent all the way through today's date. That review included a review of the preliminary plans, preliminary architecturals, pro forma, ownership information, building elevations, and other applicable materials. They conducted an on-site inspection, so Mass Housing is familiar with the location, and they also provided an extended 60-day municipal comment period. This application came to this board in November of 2016. I think this is now our sixth public hearing. The process to date, in our estimation, has proceeded as it should, with peer review, technical review, consultant submittals, extensive supplemental submittals along the way, plan revisions, and has culminated in what I indicated last time we were here, in confirmation that from a technical standpoint, that is as to engineering, traffic, public safety, site design, utilities, sewer, water, the objective pieces of this application, that the applicant has satisfied the review of the peer review consultants as well as the town departments. Obviously, during this process, we have also received comments not only from the board, but the board's consultant pertaining to design. The design consultant has submitted comments to this board in writing. We've responded to those. We've also responded to verbal comments as well. And most of these comments focus on the consultant's opinion on the building elevations, the character of the neighborhood, as well as the density, which at this point I believe is a subjective piece as well. Our initial submittal, as this board is aware, contained preliminary elevations, as I indicated, that were reviewed by Mass Housing. We believed from the outset that these were consistent with the character of the neighborhood and certainly consistent with garden-style apartments throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Mass Housing, in their site approval letter, concurred. There's a section in Mass Housing site approval letter that speaks directly to the elevations that the applicant submitted and compares them to the adjacent building typology as well as the adjacent streets. Nonetheless, in response to comments that we've received during this process, we have made, and I presented to this board, revisions to those elevations, and we believe we've improved those elevations significantly. Although, naturally, Mr. Fontecchio at the last hearing indicated to this board that he did not believe we had gone far enough with those elevation changes. There's really no objective metric to measure that by. Merely Mr. Fontecchio's personal opinion, his expert opinion, but his personal opinion. It remains the position of the applicant that although we have not done everything that was requested to us by way of elevation, either by this board or by Mr. Fontecchio, that's not our charge. We have, in our opinion, made good faith changes during this process. Wholesale changes that were suggested, such as the addition of mixed use or a significant redesign of the first floor of this structure to add active first floor space. It remains our position to this day that that's beyond the scope of 760 CMR 56 and beyond what would be a reasonable condition to impose on any applicant, particularly in a 40B context. As it pertains to the consistency of community character, again, we believe our elevations, particularly as revised, meet that, and we believe that Mass Housing's letter supports that. And as it pertains to density, what I would suggest to this board is, first and foremost, what should inform that question as to whether or not this project is too dense is the project's technical review. We've gone through that extensive process at this point. In other words, if a project is too dense, then the applicant, or rather I should say that if you're asking yourself whether or not a project is too dense, the first question that you should ask is there going to be a material impact to public safety, public health, from an engineering standpoint? Can the density be supported? We know at this point, after this long process, nearly 180 days, that the answer to all those questions is yes. Mass Housing, another thing that Mass Housing did in their site approval letter, and again, this is an organization that sees dozens, if not more, 40B applications throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts every year. They specifically address the topic of density. And they indicate in their site approval letter that the density proposed is appropriate for multifamily development in an established mixed-use village center, such as the proposed location. And I think the final piece that should inform density and the density analysis is this town's local need for additional affordable housing. The Mass Housing letter noted that as of February of 2016, this town was 527 SHI units shy of its 10% SHI requirement. The gap's likely to widen, as with all communities after the next census, and this project represents 20% of that. The only way this town's going to close that gap is through multifamily housing and in particular rental housing. We believe that this location, as we've stated all along, being on Main Street in a densely developed area with its amenities, with its public transportation options, is the ideal location for starting that process. Certainly there has been opposition to this application, both in the residents and through the consultant process, but that's to be expected. That's not atypical in any development application, and certainly not in the 40B context. Objectively, we believe that we've put forth an application that, from a technical standpoint, is wholly satisfactory and has been deemed so by third-party consultants and town departments. And we believe it warrants approval. So I appreciate your time during this process. I know it's been a long process, and I know there's been a lot of materials. So if you have questions, we're certainly here to answer them. But again, thank you.
Thank you. Let me see if the board has any questions for you. I don't know if maybe, Jerry, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay. Ken?
No.
TJ?
No questions? No.
No. Paul Haverty, do you have any? Okay. I don't either right now. Glenn, did you wanna just, I know that
Well, I guess the only thing that we might want to touch on very briefly is I did issue a letter on
Could
May
you,
30th.
excuse me, sorry,
Oh,
could you
sure.
just stand just for?
Sure. I did issue a letter on May 30th, which the applicant did receive and did respond to. I disagree with the opinion of the applicant in this matter, but it addressed the issue of the screening of the garages, the closing in of the garages that had been both requested from a design standpoint and its impacts to the adjacent properties. Also, I do have concerns about the building code and how it will apply to this. Ultimately, that will be something evaluated by the building inspector at that time. I think it is important just that the board understand that if the building inspector does in fact concur with what I'm stating, this project may need to come back to you for a design revision. That's really all I have to say on that matter.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, so I think it makes sense at this point, the applicant's spoken, we've heard from our consultant who's here, to open it for public comment. And again, if I could just remind everybody, we've already taken a lot of public comment, we've already heard a lot of what you've had to say. That's not intended to chill you, it's just intended to say quality over quantity. So would anybody like to speak? If you could stand and then just provide your name for the record as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Joyce Cannon, and I'm an owner at 536, number 6. I'm also a trustee for the 12 units in that building. And I have already mailed comment into the board in opposition to this, but I did have another comment which I wasn't not able to mail in, and that is of because there are no setbacks to the west side of the property and that the first floor is going to be a parking garage, we would request a 6-foot-high non-porous fence to aid in the dissipation of the monoxide. With a full floor parking garage, I'm concerned that the monoxide will simply stagnate and blow into our units because most of the units in the Pondview Park condominiums run north-south. 8 of them do, excuse me. To be specific, 8 of the units run north-south. 4 of the units, the final 4, 8 through 12, run east-west, back 200 feet from the road. And so I, as a trustee, I'm concerned, in addition to the other things that I sent, I was concerned about more than just screening. I'm concerned about the poison, the monoxide gases for my neighbors. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Would anybody else like to speak? Yep. Mr. Jones.
Hi, I'm Douglas Brown. I'm formerly on the planning board, I'm currently serving as selectman, but speaking as just a private citizen. So I just want to remind the board to consider the size of the project. If you look at 704 Main Street, which was a very successful project, including mixed use, that's about half the number of units, and it was profitable. I would say this project is probably profitable about half its size, maybe 60 units. So I hope you keep that in mind and remember it's your vote. You don't have to do as you're told. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this? Sir?
I would just like to say this has been
Could you just provide your name for the record?
Chuck Warringer, North Falmouth. This whole process has been rather Byzantine in my opinion. This is the first time I've been involved with anything like this. And I don't really know on what, I hope you will reject this. I don't know on what basis you will reject this, but it's so obviously flawed from start to finish, including its predecessor, the hotel, which was a very sleazy
Excuse me, sir, you need to direct your comments at this application. The hotel is not before us. In fact, it was never before this zoning board. So please direct and have it be constructive. Derogatory comments are not constructive, sir.
Well, I think they are constructive because everybody knows what's going on. But nonetheless, this is so obvious on the face that it's a terrible project. The living conditions are terrible. It's terrible for the neighborhood. This room, if it was large, it would still be filled. And if there's the voice of the citizen can come through, this project isn't going to happen. It's as simple as that. And I should certainly hope you reject this because, and I know you asked for non-repetitive comments from the public, and it's sort of asymmetrical warfare. The applicant gets lots of time, and essentially is repeating over and over again. There's very little change has been done, and the term lipstick on a pig really comes to mind. So I hope you reject this thing, because it's awful for the town. That's all I've got to say, it's just awful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The applicant, just so you know, sir, has the burden before us. And that's how it is in any legal proceeding or anything like that. It's the person moving or the person bringing the application that has the burden. They're entitled, it's normal procedure and practice that they have an opportunity to rebut and to present their
I
project.
understand. I also really, as a person involved, the professionalism of the board is wonderful, I just gotta say so.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on this? Sir? Yep.
My name's Alan Sisson. I also live in the Pondview Park condominiums right next door to this.
I'm sorry.
Alan Sisson?
Alan
Thank
Sisson,
you.
live on 536 Main Street, the Pondview Park, right next door to Faye's, which is where this is all going to happen. And shoot, lost my train of thought. Oh, the biggest thing that I could come up with that I really resent about that I am unhappy about with this is the height, the lack of a height restriction. When we bought our unit, we had every right to believe that there would be no building greater than 35 feet put up anywhere near where we live. And I think it's very dangerous for the character of downtown Falmouth. We have a village in downtown Falmouth. And the people outside of Falmouth that are looking at all of this don't see it from our perspective because they don't live here. And the reason we have this village feel to our downtown is because most of the buildings are below 35 feet. And you can look up, you've got open sky, you've got sunlight coming down, you've got breeze blowing through, and that's what people come here to be part of. People come here, and I've heard many people comment on what a beautiful downtown we have. As soon as you allow one building to go well over that 35-foot limit, you're opening the door for more buildings going over that 35-foot limit. And eventually, you're going to have a little city instead of a nice village, and people aren't going to want to come to it anymore. So that's basically what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Marcia Nolan, I'm one of the abutters. I did the math on 104 units based on studio apartments, 1 bedroom, and 2 bedrooms. The town allows 2 people in a studio, 2 people in a 1 bedroom, 4 people in a 2 bedroom. And whether it's a 40B or not, that's what's allowed. Now, a lot of people have 2 cars. Then they have teenagers that also have cars. So I added everything up, and there could be between 300 and 400 vehicles going in and out of that area all day, all night. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this? After this, public comments closed, so, okay.
You closed the
hearing.
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
All you
Oh,
needed
so
to
we
do was
just
set
need
up
to
that
set it.
deliberative session.
You just agreed
Okay.
on a date, that's it, we're
Okay.
done.
So that's it, good.
Oh, okay.
You just need to adjourn.
Oh, so no motion for anything. All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, we'll adjourn the meeting.